Why hello everybody, it's me your boy. We're back with a different kind of video today. I wanted to give my opinions on the recently released Pokemon Unite and put those opinions into a tier list. This tier list is conducive to version 1.1.1 as of July 23rd, 2021, and with a handful of characters out now and some that are coming soon such as Clefable, Gardevoir, Blastoise, and who was the other one? Blissey. If you are familiar with the game already, all characters are broken down into 5 different categories. You have the attackers, the defenders, all-arounders, support, and speedsters. These roles help us use our characters to their maximum potential and lean into their strengths. Don't be that Eldegoss fishing for kills. You're a support. Go get to supporting, dude. With that out of the way, let's get to the tier list. We have your standard S, A, B, C, and D tiers. Now S is going to stand for Swing. These characters make or break a match or team engagement. They are currently meta and are defining for the season. Some will consider these characters a must pick, so do what you will. A is going to stand for Solid. These characters are a solid pick. They're always a good choice to have on your team. They have some versatility that you can use and a few tricks up your sleeve that can really turn the tide of battle into your favor. Not as impressive as S tier, but entirely solid. And then we have B tier. B tier stands for balanced. These characters have pros and cons that balance them out, kind of like a jack of all trades. They perform quite well, but if they aren't on your team, you won't suffer that much. You won't be in a pinch. They offer value, but not quite in large quantities. And then we have C tier. C tier stands for cons. These characters just have too many cons working against them to be relevant. But with that being said, if you main these characters and you can put in the work, your skill can bring them to even S tier. So never give up and never let tier lists tell you who to main. And then last but not least, we have D tier. D tier stands for do not pick. If you pick these characters, you're throwing the match. You may be skillful with these characters, but they need more than skill to succeed. They need a miracle. But with that all being said, pick who you want. Enjoy the game. It's all about having fun. So don't take tier lists too seriously. Pick your favorites, play your favorites, and have fun. That's the important part. Okay, since we are going alphabetical, we're going to start first with Absol. Absol, very solid, very, very solid. A tier. Easy, easy. Now, Absol is a glass cannon, obviously. He's going to rush in there, do a lot of damage, disrupt a lot of team fights, and score some kills for your team. And just in general, there's not much to say about Absol. He's just very solid. But of course, glass cannon, do not try to tank with Absol. He's gonna, just obliterate in the wind. Do not try to do team engagements by yourself. It's not very not a very good idea to do that. Your lone wolf playstyle only works for 1-on-1 or maybe even 2-on-2 or 1-on-2, but try to stick with your team. You are a valuable part of your team, and stick with them, and you'll be good. If you are very skilled with Absol, you can easily be with S tier, easily. But for right now, stick him in A tier. He's got kind of a high skill ceiling, and he relies on critical hits to really pump out massive amounts of damage. If you don't get critical hits, that's fine, but if not, A tier. Next, alphabetically, we have Blastoise, who is not in the game right now, so I will not be putting him in there. He is a defender type, and he's defensive. That's it. That's all we know about him so far. And by the way, Absol is a speedster type, so keep that in mind. Speedsters are definitely going to be a type of glass cannon. Up next, we have Blissey, who again is not in the game, so we will not be talking about them right now. Definitely going to be a support type, so keep that in mind. After that, we have Charizard. Charizard's hard to place because he is one of those 3 evolution characters, so it takes a little bit of, rolling to get to Charizard, and then you can start dealing damage, but his skills and kit are just okay. They're not amazing, they're not A tier, they're not C tier. He's a solid B tier, I would say. He's good. Balanced, A lot of his skills and abilities, they work well for him, but that's about it. If you can get him rolling and support him well, he's going to carry your team pretty decently. But if not, he's okay. He's okay. That's the sum of Charizard. He's okay. Next is Cinderace. And Cinderace, I struggle with putting between S and A tier because Cinderace is very solid. If you can support your Cinderace and do really well with him, S tier for sure. Is that burn over time is very good, but he is a little fragile. Obviously, Cinderace is an attacker type, so again, if you get caught out in the open, you're not going to survive quite often. You want to stick with your team and you want to have that support behind you. So I struggle between putting him in S and A. I'm going to put him at the top of A right now. And then next we have Clefable, who's S tier. Just kidding, she's not in the game right now. So again, not worrying about that one. Cramorant is next, who, if you can get the Whirlpool running and the Hurricane, those are pretty good. You can lock down certain areas of the map easily. He's a ranged attacker too. You know, it is Cramorant's considered an expert skill ceiling, so I would put him at the top of B tier, but also the bottom of A tier. He's very solid, very solid. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of A tier. Okay, and next we have Crustle, very first, very solid S tier. Maybe a controversial opinion, but if you have a really good Crustle on your team, you really can't get past him. That Shell Smash with that X Scissor is going to disrupt everything. He's going to live through every fight. You know, if you have a solid support behind him, you're not going to take him out, and he's just going to bulldoze the entire enemy team. But that being said, he does need that setup. If he's alone, he can handle 1v1 or 1v2, but if you're in a team fight, he can definitely hold his own. His skill set and kit just leans very heavily into defensive, and right now he deals a lot of damage. He's very tanky, very fast if you pop that Shell Smash. Crazy good, in my opinion. So, you know, don't take that as fact, but very good. Whenever he's on our team, we do pretty good, especially with that Rock Tomb and Stealth Rock. So pick your skills wisely and he will bulldoze the entire team, like I said. Next we have Eldegoss, really very easily S tier. Right now, currently with the current build of the game, Eldegoss is the only healer. So if you have an Eldegoss on your team, it's going to swing it in your favor heavily if they know what they're doing. Because I've played a couple matches where Eldegoss will just run into the enemy team and just start like attacking and drawing fire, and it's like Eldegoss is not a glass cannon, but you're not going to deal a lot of damage and you're not going to take a bunch of damage, but you're just kind of just going to sit there and soak up damage and attract the ire of the enemy team. You want to lay in the back lane and support your team from afar. Throw those pollen puffs, get their health up, get that cotton guard. You want to support, obviously. Eldegoss is a supporter. Support your team. It's the support that Eldegoss brings to the team is invaluable, and this is not just coming from an Eldegoss main. It's always a good decision. On the enemy team, you want to be very wary if they have an Eldegoss, because you want to snipe them as soon as possible to remove that team's sustainability. Okay, and up next we have Garchomp, and again I struggle between very high A tier to an S tier, because I'm gonna put him down right here for right now, because this character again can just get in there and disrupt everything and push everything apart, deal massive amounts of damage, and then just get out. It's very good initiating. It's very good. If you get caught out in the open, you're not going to die too often because it's considered an all-around type. So your bulk isn't awful. You know, you can take a hit or two. I really struggle putting him between A and S tier. He's very good. If you have an enemy Garchomp, you're going to struggle if they know what they're doing. I'm going to put him right behind Cinderace, because they're both very good. They're very solid. If you know what you're doing, A tier is like if you know what you're doing, easily S tier. If you don't know what you're doing, B or C tier. So A tier really heavily depends on your skill. If you're good with these characters, absolutely amazing. S tier, you can be a little shaky with your character, but as long as you're like decent, you can pull out some stops for a good team fight and swing it really back into your favor if necessary. Up next we have Gardevoir, who again is not in the game, so we will not be talking about her just yet. And moving right on to Gengar. Gengar is another speedster type, and it has an expert skill ceiling. So Gengar, as an Eldegoss main, I dread going up against Gengar. I'm actually gonna put him in S tier, because if you play Gengar right, you can just decimate an entire team with all that damage and all that I wouldn't want to say trickery, but like all that like disruption is crazy for Gengar. And on top of that too, he's another one of those characters that can get in and get out. You know, you can engage and kind of threaten like a one-on-one or a 1v2 and then just get the hell out of there. And it's very, very easy for Gengar to come in and out. He is a glass cannon again, because he's a speedster. He's going to deal a lot of damage, but he's not going to be able to take a lot of damage. But again, if you have a good support behind you, you're not going to worry about that. And if you can sustain a Gengar and he just keeps pumping out damage, your team is just going to melt anything that it goes up against. Okay, and next up is Lucario, actually. So Lucario is another all-arounder with melee. So right now, in my mind, he's right around Cinderace and Garchomp, again with these all-arounders. I don't know if he's better than Garchomp. Probably just a little bit worse than Garchomp, just a little bit worse. Again, good bulk, good offense, good mobility, good pretty much everything, and that's what sums up Lucario. He's good. He's very, very good. He's not oppressive, he's not game-breaking, he's not meta, but if you pick him and you're good with him, you will absolutely wreck with Lucario. Again, with a good support, you can become very, very good, and your S tier, you're pretty much guaranteed the game, in my personal opinion. From the games that I've played, if you can support a heavy damage dealer, a heavy tank, you're gonna win. You're just gonna win these team fights. Okay, and next up we have Machamp. Now Machamp, again, another all-rounder, another just like absolutely terrifying if you face him. Because if he has like submission or even like close combat, you're gonna get melted. You're gonna get absolutely melted down unless you're a defender and unless you're ready for it. So I would say he's right between Garchomp and Lucario. He's definitely not S tier. He definitely struggles with some fights, especially with ranged units. But he's gonna pump out that damage. Whenever I am with or against a Machamp, they're one, doing a lot of damage, and two, just absolutely dominating whatever 1v1 they're doing. If you get into a team fight and Machamp gets kind of like sniped down from ranged units, that's where he struggles, because he can't do anything about that. He can fight close combat with a 1v1, but a 1v2 or a 1v3, you're gonna kind of struggle because he has no retaliation versus those fights. So keep your Machamp protected and healed and whatever, and he will do absolute work for you. He is a very, very, very solid pick. Very, very good. Alright, and now we have Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime I know the absolute least about, because I've only played him a handful of times, and I've never even seen him on the enemy team. I've seen him maybe like once or twice, and his abilities are supportive. He makes those barriers, he does that guard swap, got Psychic, Confusion, all that good stuff. His ultimate ability is very interesting. But all in all, he's okay. He's very okay. He doesn't do a lot of damage. His endurance is okay. But for the most part, you need to know what you're doing with him to even scratch the surface of his potential. So for that, I'm going to put him at the back of B tier. Definitely one of those characters, if you know what you're doing, you can put in work with this character. But if you're not, and a lot of people won't, because it's got a very high skill ceiling, even though it says intermediate, he's a little bit harder to use and understand what his gimmicks are. You won't be seeing him very often in low levels of play, but in high levels of play, you will be seeing him. But again, it depends on how good they are. If they can put in that work with Mr. Mime and understand him and really work with it, you're going to fight something that's A and possibly even S tier. But for the minimum, you're going to be at a B tier. And then coming in on a cold wind, we have Alolan Ninetales. Alolan specifically, yes, it is the ice type. Again, just like Cinderace, very solid. An attacker who is ranged. Its basic attack can hit a cone of damage, which is just invaluable. I struggle to put it's definitely A tier, not S tier. But you know what, I'm going to put him right in A tier, right behind Cinderace, because not only is Ninetales a fantastic attacker, it can also support. If you kind of push yourself towards the supportive side of Ninetales with all that freezing, you can actually really help out your team by freezing dangerous threats, such as another Garchomp or a another Machamp, an Absol, Lucario, a Gengar. You know, you can support your team while also dealing a fantastic amount of damage, and that versatility makes it pretty high A tier. You can kind of do whatever you want with Ninetales, besides healing, obviously. It's invaluable on your team. It's a very, very solid pick. Again, a lot of these are very solid picks. You can't go wrong with a couple of these, and even if you don't know what you're doing, it's still a good pick. Ninetales is good, very good. And up next we have the Pokemon mascot, obviously, is Pikachu. Pikachu right now, in my personal opinion, you don't see him super often. If you can get him a lot of kills and if you can get him a lot of level ups and a lot of power, he's definitely a top of A tier, but that's if you focus on Pikachu. In my personal opinion, don't take this offensively, I would put him right above Cramorant, because he's an attacker, obviously, so it's gonna struggle with taking a hit or two. Its offense just isn't that high to warrant just rushing into team fights. You don't see Pikachu too often, and he doesn't deal a ton of push with the team. Definitely not oppressive. He's definitely not something you have to worry too much about. If you have a solid tank, again, a solid defender, Pikachu's attacks are just gonna kind of pester your tank, and it can be dealt with relatively easily. Yes, it does have that Electro Web early on, that Volt Tackle to disrupt, that Thunderbolt. It's just not oppressive. Maybe if Pikachu had a buff to its damage, it would be a little bit stronger. But right now, if you know what you're doing with Pikachu, yes, it's very good, but it's not going to be as good as somebody that can get in there, get out, and just deal a massive amount of damage and just melt that enemy HP bar, similar to like Machamp, Garchomp, Lucario. Cinderace can pick people off from afar. Ninetales is invaluable as a support, damage and support together with that freezing. Anyways, let's get on to Slowbro. Slowbro, in my opinion, again, it's hovering between S and A tier. That telekinesis, that shrugging off of that damage, is very, very good. A very solid defense unit. I'm really struggling on where to put him. He's very good, very solid. Again, take a drink every time I say good. No, please don't. I would put him just right in front of Garchomp. Very, very good, very, very solid, but again, is weak to what's above him. If you can range him out, because he's got that surf, he's got that telekinesis, if you can get out of his range and just kind of pick at him, he will fall down. But if you have a good support, again, that ranged pestering is not going to phase him too much. So it really, again, depends on your team. Is your team going to support you, or is your team going to let you go off on your own? You can do both, but you can definitely survive better with a team fight. His utility in team fights is just invaluable, and it really helps your team snowball. Ah, yes, Snorlax, the good old-fashioned mascot of sleeping. And as far as sleeping goes, yes, S tier. Snorlax is an absolute menace. As far as tanking goes, this character will absolutely infuriate you. If you cannot deal enough damage to him, he will just sit there and heal in the goal zone with his nap ability. He doesn't care about certain amounts of damage. He will just keep striking it off. And he's got that disrupt with that body slam. He's got a lot of crowd control to disrupt the enemy team, as well as make sure he stays healthy. With his block ability, you can also support your team and reduce the amount of damage that they have incoming. Now, yes, if you do engage on a Snorlax and it's like 1v2, 1v3, and you can melt him down without him doing anything, because he is quite slow, yes, he's going to struggle. At most, you're going to dent him, and he could run back to his team, come back with more of a vengeance. but for the amount of support that he brings to your team and the amount of value that he brings to a team fight, definitely, in my mind, S tier. Very good, very good. All right, next we have Talonflame. Talonflame, top of S tier. No, I'm kidding. So Talonflame has some pros and cons, obviously. Talonflame does a good amount of damage, a moderate amount of damage. Nothing crazy, I would say, unless you're very squishy. Talonflame is going to make quick work of you, but if you're not, it's just going to kind of, you know, fly around you and annoy you. It's got good, very good movement. It can get in, get out again. It's a speedster type, so it's good at engaging and getting out of there. But its damage is a little lackluster, in my opinion. For the amount of times I've ran into a Talonflame, it deals some damage, and then gets out of there. If anything, my experience with Talonflame is, in a team fight, it's probably the first one to go down if you don't have a good support. It just doesn't have good offenses. And its signature ability, that Gale Wings, yes, it makes you move faster when you have higher health, but in the main series game, it also gives you more damage. And so I think if you were to give him a little bit of a tweak, give him a little bit more damage. So for that, I'm going to put him right next to Charizard. Yes, Venasaur, the bane of my existence. I played one particular match with Venasaur that just steamrolled our entire team. They had Petal Dance, and they just ran into our team and just like decimated everybody. It was like a very well-trained Venusaur, and they just did quick work of us. But typically, again, I'm going to say A tier, because it's just Venusaur is just very solid. Very good, very solid. Again, I know I keep saying that, but a lot of these characters are just very good. They're very solid. Not a ton of them have a lot of issues. Now, I would, as far as putting him, where to put Venusaur, I would put him, you know what, I'm going to put Venusaur right behind Machamp, because Venusaur is ranged. It's got pretty decent endurance, and if you can support your Venusaur, yet again, if you can support him, it's going to soak up some damage, deal a bunch back, and keep your push going. Not to mention the sustainability it has with Giga Drain and the versatility it has with Sludge Bomb. Those are also very powerful abilities. Okay, only 2 more to go, and now we're working on Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff, again, you love to see it on other support. So, controversially, right above Charizard, actually. Here's the thing. Wigglytuff, if played correctly, you can disrupt the team, get those double slaps in, get that roll out, and just break a team right in half, and then get the hell out of there. Or you can get in there, do some sing, and put some enemies to sleep, and then get out of there again, or stay in the fight and just keep dealing damage. Wigglytuff has decent endurance. Its offense is not the highest. It's considered a support type, but with no healing moves, it just kind of falls flat. Maybe if Sing also healed, that'd be pretty niche. As far as usability and versatility and what it brings to the table, in my opinion, brings more than Charizard. It brings support that can disrupt a team fight and just entirely crack it down the middle and separate, and possibly, you know, snipe that Eldegoss. It can snipe that Gengar. It can push the Snorlax out of the way. It can push the Crustle out of the way. It can really just clear out what it needs to. But that being said, once it gets into the fight, and if it doesn't get out, it's going to die. So you need to kind of know what you're doing as Wigglytuff to get in there, disrupt, and then get out, or stay and be healed. Heavily depends on your skill level, where you can take this character. It can definitely be B, A, or S, depending on how good you are and how well you know this character. And last but not least, we have Zeraora. S tier. Do I even have to say it? If you played against or with Zeraora, he's just absolutely oppressive. I would put him, honestly, at the top of S tier. I know some people are gonna get mad about that, but this boy does so much damage. So much damage. Ridiculous amounts of damage. And while we're here, I'm gonna rearrange a little things. I would say Lucario is a little bit better than Venusaur, and Gengar is probably a little bit better than Eldegoss. But an enemy Zeraora can absolutely melt an entire team if done correctly. His skills and abilities just allow him to cleave massive amounts of damage into an enemy team. His kit with Volt Absorb, Wild Charge, Even Discharge, Volt Switch, and Spark All of those just deal massive amounts of damage, and it allows him to engage in a fight and get out. Another speedster type, yes, he will easily fall to a team fight if he's by himself, but if you're a smart Zeraora player, you will not be engaging on 1v3, 1v4, 1v5 by yourself. You're going to stick with your team and just get in there and just pump out that damage, or on a 1v1 or a 1v2, just decimate whatever character you're up against. A lot of these characters against Zeraora just have no way to stop it. If you go up against Zeraora versus Gengar versus Eldegoss versus Snorlax even, you're going to just steamroll them because they have nothing to do to stop the amount of damage you're pumping out. Yes, Snorlax can stop and rest and try to block out your damage, but you are way faster than him. You are going to keep pestering him until he dies. Snorlax does deal damage, but not enough to one-shot you. And even if he does deal enough damage to heavily wound you, you can get out of there quite easily. So yeah, in my opinion, here's our S, A, and B tier. There are no C tier characters because a lot of these characters are very solid. I know I've been saying that quite a lot, but you can't go wrong with a lot of these picks. Anything A or S tier, you're going to do well and you're going to have fun. If you pick a B tier character and you get a little frustrated with losing and not getting those kills, and you're not going to have that best of a time. And yes, the D tier did get unused, but D stands for don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We really appreciate it over here. But thank you guys for hanging out, listening to me ramble again, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.